Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Danton Ndhlovu. I'm the Deputy Spokesperson for Citizens First. And as usual, in my weekly address to the media, to ensure that the messages reach the masses, I have 5 items on which we want to make comments on. I'll start by talking about the issues of defective NRCs to citizens in Zambia for the first time. Then I also talk about the job losses of 3,500 contractor jobs under Ministry of Health vis-a-vis CDC. Then I also talk about the issue of Kavesha calling citizens as lazy and only wanting to have free things. The 4th item we'll talk about is the delayed payments of farmers by FRA. Then last but not the least, I'll talk about the presidential speech that President Hakainde Hichilema has delivered. I'll be doing this as my ways and means to engage citizens from time to time on a weekly basis on issues that are affecting the nation. To start with, we have been getting a lot of reports, and it looks like we had undermined this defective process through which citizens seeking to get identity cards, which are green national registration cards, as Zambians, which is their entitlement, as well as a prerequisite for them to register as voters so that they can participate in the decision making of our country. We are saddened that a majority of those that sought to get NRCs got defective NRCs. This is for the first time that we are seeing this issue of politics getting now down to the issues of NRCs. The defective NRCs were issued in the northern circuit of the country. And from our very own understanding, it is the perception of the UPND government that they are not famous in that area, which we talk of Northern Province, Lopra Province. So they were issuing defective NRCs. When we mean defective NRCs, these are NRCs that are issued to citizens of this country, and you can't even use them. 1, because the standards were not met. 2, there were errors that will have identified to be errors on purpose, meaning they really wanted to simply give out these NRCs so that people can't use them. One way or the other, this government didn't want the majority of the people in that area, Northern Province as well as Lopra Province, to have access to voter registration. It is quite saddening, and we thought this issue only affected a few citizens, but it is quite enormous. What is surprising is that to date, government has not taken any form of action to 1, correct the situation, 2, to ensure that those who committed this criminal offense are brought to book and justice is served. Issuing an NRC to a Zambian citizen has got a standard procedure. The printing of names or details, the collection of that information is procedural. Printing and then laminating, putting a picture to that NRC have procedures to follow. Surprisingly, this time it was not being followed, and the number of NRCs issued were simply too many for us to call it an error. So we speak as representatives of the people. First of all, those who got defective NRCs should be given time. They shouldn't even be made to pay again, whether it's a 3-kwacha or a 2-kwacha. They should simply have their NRCs replaced for free. Secondly, we expect that government takes an action in correcting the issue once of these NRCs, so that those who participated in this criminal offense, they are brought to book, so that would-be offenders would be deterred from engaging in similar offenses. That is how a community under the rule of law, under the democracy that we have chosen to govern ourselves by, are supposed to happen. We really condemn it. We really condemn this action, and we ask the Zambian citizens to continue being vigilant. Because if you, the citizens, were not vigilant, those of us that speak for you would not have known. And that is why we ask upon citizens to continue helping us with information, so that we fully understand what is happening as opposition and as your representatives and as people that speak for you. We only believe that when we make it into office, President Hichilema will be able to ensure that he is in touch with the grassroots. Because for such a thing to have happened and the president of the country remains quiet, he hasn't talked about it, there is no action seen at government level apart from the defense that we'll have seen from the UPND cadres castigating those that brought out this issue and those of us that have spoken to have corrections made on this issue. We pray that Citizens First coming into office should be able to harmonize this issue, and that all citizens at the age of 16 and above are entitled to get a non-defective NRC that they can use to register as voters, use to register for tipping. They can use to register for any other kind of contract which requires an identity to be produced. So for UPND, we ask the Zambian people to take this as one of the indictments on the things citizens should use to make a decision when it comes to voting in the 2026 general elections. President Hichilema of the Citizens First. First of all, he had a press briefing on which he called on President Hakainde Hichilema and his government to take the issues that were raised by the American embassy through the ambassador here in Zambia regarding the corruption on medicines under the Ministry of Health. The American embassy had issued various statements, and they said this was after having engaged with the Zambian government with over 33 meetings that yielded no fruit. The American government, all they were asking for is that they had evidence of the free medicines that were donating to the government of the Republic of Zambia, that were finding themselves on the shelves of pharmacies or chemists, where Zambian citizens are now made to pay in order to get treated. The American government wanted action to be taken because this kind of corruption was too much from 2021 to 2024. However, the UPND, as usual, with President Hakainde Hichilema, like President Citizens First President Hichilema has put it, that they decided to cover up the corruption because they don't want to take action on the ministers, they don't want to take action on the permanent secretaries, they don't want to take action on the directors that are serving under their government. because it is an exposure on the lack of seriousness on the fight against corruption. After the American government had spoken, the UPND decided to play politics. They started issuing statements of defense instead of going down and speak to the American government and ensuring that those that stole the medicines were brought to book and justice served. When justice is served, you stop the continuous stealing or pilferage of medicines. So the UPND government and President Hakainde Hichilema decided to keep quiet. And when they kept quiet on this matter of theft of drugs, the American government, out of rage, out of being disappointed, they went on to cut aid to Zambia to the tune of $50 million. Meaning from 2026 January, this aid will not be made available. And the UPND government bragged that they have already found another partner who is going to help them with $50 million pumped into the Ministry of Health as aid to replace the American aid. To our shock and surprise as citizens faced is that through the tabloid news diggers, information indicates that 3,500 workers are due to lose their jobs under the Ministry of Health, under CDC, which is Control and Prevention Disease, who lose their jobs because the aid has not been renewed. Now, 3,500 jobs lost is not something small. It's not something small. It is huge. These are direct jobs. These 3,500 have got families that they look after. These 3,500 workers have got people that they are sponsoring into schools, universities. They have got maids. They have got garden boys. All these will lose their jobs. And you want to play it small? As citizens first, we seriously demand that the UPND takes action on this matter. President Hichilema of the Citizens First told President Hakainde Hichilema through media briefings and radio programs, and having spoken to him, that he needed to set up a delegation to visit Washington and go and explain what happened with action to correct the situation and plead with the American government not to cut aid. And this could have been avoided. However, we'll have seen that there is now too much political arrogance of power, which has come into play by our colleagues in government not wanting to listen from the opposition. If government had taken the steps that President Hichilema had given to them in form of advice, this situation would not have been exacerbated to such levels. We are deeply disappointed on behalf of those workers who are going to lose jobs, becoming destitute, waking up not knowing how they'll feed their families the following day. It is such a straining feeling or situation to subject 3,500 workers to go through when it could have been avoided, especially that will have a very serious collapsed economy that is currently prevailing, which has got no liquid cash, and people are struggling to even do smaller businesses. So as Citizens First, we wanted to put it on record that we do not support the 3,000 job losses. And now we pray that government should find a solution. Find that 50 million from within the mining sector. We still have gold dotted around this country. We still have Sujrite dotted around this country. And there is no way our people should be suffering when we'll have got a government, as if we have an absent government. As Citizens First party, we were very excited for the past 2 days when we learned that President Hakainde Hichilema was working late nights for him to prepare the speech as he opened Parliament on Friday. Again, we don't need to waste people's time, because if President Hakainde Hichilema has decided to disappoint the 22 million citizens of this country, who are we as opposition to begin to waste time on talking about his speech? We're a bit disappointed that President Hakainde Hichilema, despite taking so much time and care in preparing his speech is not in tune with the Zambian community. His speech does not speak to the well-being of the people, doesn't speak to the well-being of the citizens of this country. We expected that President Hakainde Hichilema would talk about the effects that the $50 million US aid cut by the US government to the Ministry of Health, the impact it has on the people and the solution attached. We expected President Hakainde Hichilema, as he speaks into Parliament, to talk about how he intends to ensure that more Zambians are covered under FISIP as we prepare for this coming farming season. We expected that President Hakainde Hichilema would talk about the 3,000 job losses that people are going to lose at the Ministry of Health. We expected President Hakainde Hichilema to talk about the mitigation his office has taken to ensure that action is taken against those cited under the corruption reports, especially with the American ambassador's report on stolen drugs. We expected that President Hakainde Hichilema would talk about the Black Mountains being given back to the Zambian youths. We expected that President Hakainde Hichilema would talk about the lessening of procedures and rhetoric on people accessing CDA funds. We expected that President Hakainde Hichilema would be more practical than ever before. We expected President Hakainde Hichilema to inform this country that his government has listened to the cries of the Zambian people regarding load shedding, and therefore is ensuring or directing that there will be no more power exports or no more electricity exports for citizens of this country, to ensure that their businesses, small-scale businesses of welding, small-scale businesses of saloon, barbershop, butcheries, bars, they are well protected, secured, and able to survive until the next election. We're a bit disappointed because the president was now talking about the bringing back of the deferred Bill 7, which the Constitution Court in Zambia, the constitution judges that he appointed, rejected, and he called the Bill 7 as unconstitutional. We wonder why he's still pushing it. He's still talking about Bill 13 and other bills. The Zambian people want a president that is talking about the cost of living. The Zambian people want a president who is talking about the cost of fuel. The Zambian people want a president that is talking about how they are going to survive, not seeing a president who is now becoming more of a preacher and pays no attention to the deeds. We are deeply disappointed as Citizens First. We thought, like we were told and informed like any other citizen, that the president was taking care in ensuring that he preaches, he gives a good speech. Good speech should be full of what government is doing. We know he couldn't talk about the energy sector. He didn't want to talk about the energy sector because he is continuing to export power. He didn't want to talk about the energy sector because he intends to increase the electricity tariffs. He didn't want to talk about the energy sector because he intends to continue with the same failed procedure or policy of reviewing petrol and diesel prices on a monthly basis, which is not helping to stabilize the business sector or economy in the country, because business is all about predictability, which is lacking. He didn't want to talk about the cost of mealie meal because he knows that his government still continues to export maize, despite the price of maize not being stable and the price of maize still being out of reach for most of our citizens. This calls for Zambians to see the need to change government. The need to change government. There is no way we can have people that are able to help in government, like President Hichilema of the Citizens First is able to manage these affairs. He's got the solutions of bringing to the table 20 million megawatts by introduction of nuclear plants in the country, so that we can actually support our industrialization agenda. Our Citizens First, we remain favorite because of President Hichilema has got the vast experience in knowing how the system can speak to the manifesto of a political party. President Hichilema knows the system of governance. He knows how it works, and therefore it will not be difficult for him to ensure that he helps the Zambian people. But with a speech by the President of the Republic of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, we remain disappointed, and very disappointed for that matter, because we expected the speech to help the Zambian people. However, like many people have said, that if God desires to remove someone from power, he will ensure that he gives people reasons as to why such individuals or political party or leaders should be voted from office. The Zambian people are just being given reasons because this government is failing. It is failing to pay teachers on time. It is failing to pay FRI workers on time. It is failing to pay the people that are suffering. If they work for 10 days, they still have to wait for 2 months for them to get a 600 kwacha, and you would wonder how people are surviving. Now, with all the hard work that Zambians are able to project and demonstrate, we have Mulilo Kavesha, the Solicitor General, appointed by President Hakainde Hichilema, calling Zambians as lazy. And our president was expected by the Zambian people, by the Zambian citizens, to speak to that issue. Why should Zambians be called lazy by Mulilo Kavesha, the man who is surviving on taxpayers' money, both on salary as well as allowances and any other income that is making because of having occupied that position? If it is true hate speech is there, if it is true tribal crimes are there, one wonders why Mulilo Kavesha would be spared by his appointing authority. So the president was speaking to himself. The president was not speaking to the Zambian people. The president was simply there to demonstrate to the Zambian people, the Zambian members of parliament, that yes, he's the president. And we all agree. There is no citizen in this country who does not accept that President Hakainde Hichilema is the president of the country. But what people are not happy with is, one, his performance in government as president, as head of the state and as head of the country, as well as the choices he makes in terms of appointments. People that he is appointing are coming to reduce, to, joke around the collective wisdom of the nation. The other day, Zambians were told they have poverty of the mind. Now we are being called lazy. There is no Zambian that is lazy. People have not been feeding from Kavesha's house. People have not been feeding from anybody's farm. People have been surviving. They have survived the UNIP government. They survived the MMD government. They survived the PF government. They will definitely survive the UPND government. It is up to those that are elected in government to ensure that they do play their part so that people have a reason to at least remember them when they are out of office. I do not know who in their right frame of mind will be able to come and praise the UPND government of having done something. President Hakainde Hichilema, the only way to correct that speech is to ensure that action is taken on electricity. Don't increase electricity tariffs. Stop adjusting fuel prices on a monthly basis. If anything, seek to reduce the cost of fuel. Ensure that you increase the number of packs under FISIP so that the country is food secure. Take development to all corners of the country. Appoint leaders from across all the 10 provinces as you speak, and it's not what we are seeing. We call on the office to be more action-oriented and ensure that the Zambian people are saved. We call on President Hakainde Hichilema to stop the export of power to neighboring countries until we stabilize our small businesses, the welders, the salons, the barber shops, those that depend on electricity, like those running bars, those running butcheries, those that are selling fresh fish, okay, and any other business that solely depends on electricity. We call upon President Hakainde Hichilema to ensure that he begins to insist that the officers feeding him with information, feed him with correct information. And when he is fed with correct information, he should be able to act in the interest of the Zambian citizens. Thank you so much. We call upon President Hakainde Hichilema this time to take action, and we strongly view Solicitor General's comments Mulilo Kabesha as irresponsible, and it constitutes hate speech when he called on Zambians as lazy and only good at wanting free things. The last time we had the Minister of Education calling the people of Luapula as having a poverty mind. Now again, President Hakainde Hichilema doesn't take action whenever he's confronted with his own people that he has appointed making hate speech. And yet we'll have seen citizens and people from the opposition being taken to court on a daily basis because of having used the same words that those in government are using, and they are not being called to account. Mulilo Kabesha cannot call citizens as lazy and only good at wanting free things. Citizens are not asking for free things. Citizens of this country are simply reminding the UPND government that they found petrol at 17 kwacha and it's being sold at 29 kwacha is too much. And already, like we are putting it, in Malawi fuel is costing 15 kwacha. There is nothing wrong in the Zambian citizens saying the milli meal that you found at 120 kwacha is now costing 360 kwacha. There is nothing wrong. It is not the poverty of the mind. Because even if milli meal is brought to 120 kwacha, it is still not Mulilo Kabesha who is going to give the Zambian citizens that 120 kwacha. It is the Zambian citizens themselves who are going to find that amount, whichever means, buy milli meal and feed their families. So the minister I mean, the Solicitor General does not sit well in his office to begin to demean or insult the Zambian collective wisdom. It is not right. And if these things are let without being checked, we as a country are doomed. It is not wrong for the Zambian people to ask that the cost of the dollar is too much. It is because these citizens are pushing to survive. They need the cost of the dollar to reduce so that when they go to make orders, at least they have got something to survive with. When people are calling on government to, stabilize the power supply, it is not because they are lazy. They want power to be stable because they want to survive. We have got metal fabricators, welders. We'll have got people that are able to survive on their own if electricity is available. We'll have got youths who are able to go and dig and search for copper in those black mountains, which the Zambian government has given to foreigners. It is because Zambians work hard. Mulilo Kabesha does not know what it takes to find a gram of copper. It doesn't know what it takes to find, even a gram of gold. It doesn't. People fight. It is not cheap for what they go through to get a living. And those in government should not be there to ridicule them. They should actually be there to commend the efforts Zambian people are taking. So we find it quite disturbing that this Kabesha, the man who has failed to get a dead body from South Africa, is now insulting the Zambians. The same Zambians that he was saying is representing in South Africa are the same Zambians is now insulting, because the Zambians have simply asked President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND government to fulfill their promises that they made. And when a citizen asks a government to fulfill its promise, then you begin to call them names. The civil servants are not happy. Look at their static income from 2021 to date. Whilst their income has been static, the issues they have got to buy or purchase or spend on using that static income have been fluctuating, going on the higher side. Where do you expect people to get money from? And when people speak, Kabesha says they are lazy and they only want free things. No, they are not lazy. They are only asking for government to provide an enabling environment, and those who are working to get enough to look after their families and meet other needs that they need to meet on a daily basis. So Kabesha deserves the attention of the people, and if President Hakainde Hichilema does not take action against Kabesha, then definitely it is another indictment voters must put aside and record against UPND and use it as they go to vote in the 2026 general elections. I thank you. As I conclude in my weekly engagement with the media, Deputy Spokesperson for Citizens First, Danton Ndhlovu, I want to talk about, and on behalf of farmers. Farmers are also human beings. The people that managed to find the little income, they bought their own fertilizer, they bought their own seed, they went on to supply maize to FRA under very difficult conditions. Because we know that some farmers, they had to spend about a 6 kwacha in order for 1 bag to be processed at FRA depot. A 2 kwacha was being paid for them to clean their maize on the safer. A 2 kwacha for those that are undertaking that labor work per bag. And the 2 kwacha was going towards security and also simply accessing a bag in order for them to load that 50 kg maize. to sell to FRA. Farmers have complained, and we need to speak about that. We're not just opposition for the sake of being in opposition. We need to speak vintu vamene vapitamo vantu vasu, vantu va muziko latu lino. So if farmers complained that just at FRA, they would spend a 2 kwacha to use a safer, pay bag, 2 kwacha pay bag for labor, and 2 kwacha which would go towards security, as well as accessing a bag which is supposed to be for free. We spoke about this area as opposition under President Hichilema. He spoke about this when he visited Eastern Province at Radio Maria, and people thought he was joking. But when we'll have gone round, we'll have discovered that actually what President Hichilema was talking about is true. Worse off, these people have had to pay transporters. Some of them actually, they got the transport services on credit. And the owners of the vehicles want to be paid. But government is still holding onto the money for the farmers. This was an item that was budgeted for, and money was put aside. The exercise has been conducted, maize collected from the farmer. Why would government delay to pay the farmer? Why would government delay to pay the farmer? Pay the farmers. They are human beings. They are the ones that you are calling lazy. Pay them. When you pay the farmers, they'll stop frequenting your offices, because whoever comes to your office, you think they have come to ask for lunch. A time will come when you start taking that lunch into communities. For now, you think they are troubling you. So pay the farmers. Why should government be taking 2 months to pay the FRA farmers? Why is government taking 2 months to pay those that have worked for cash for work? They work for 10 days, and you promise them we'll pay you immediately. They have got to wait for 2 months. Others have had to wait for 3 months. Others, even after waiting for 3 months, their names disappear. Whoever gets that money, no one wants to talk about it. And when we say democratic space has been shrinking and people are failing to talk, people can't express themselves freely, you are saying, no, people have got the freedom to speak. People are finding it difficult to express themselves. So we want to speak about this issue, and these are things that we expected President Hakainde Hichilema to talk about in his presidential speech. That as I leave Parliament today, I am a happy person because farmers have been paid. I'm a happy person because farmers will be paid. But he remained mute and silent on matters that are affecting citizens. So as citizens first was President Hichilema, we do not only ask, this time we demand that President Hakainde Hichilema directs the FRA to settle the bill for the farmers. Let them get their money and be able to begin to prepare themselves. I thank you.